Hi everyone, welcome back to Learn All About Property. My name's Roy, and as you've probably seen from the other modules, I'm here to help you understand what it costs and what's involved in refurbishing property, how to calculate the costs to rectify defects, how much is it going to cost to renovate properties, whether it's HMO, it's going to be a buy-to-let, it's going to be a flip, doesn't really matter. One of the biggest things that most people complain about when they invest in properties is not knowing, what defects to look for, not knowing how much it's going to cost to refurbish a property. Now, over the last 30 years or so, myself and my colleagues, as you've seen, we've created an invaluable amount of information that'll help to teach you everything you need to know. Now, don't get me wrong, I've made mistakes over the years, and probably I still will. Okay, things are changing rapidly, costs of materials are changing rapidly, labor costs are changing, all types of properties, the way they're built, you need to learn about the way they're built, what to look out for, the defects, and so on and so on. It can be overwhelming, but with experience you gain more knowledge, and the whole purpose of the refurbishment course is to help you gain as much information and knowledge as you possibly can from day one. The course is quite intense, but to just give you an oversight, I've whipped out here into one of the gardens while the others are filming in the studio, so I'm sort of bunking off a little bit, getting a bit of sunshine, and I just want to share with you some of the things that we look for when we go to inspect a property. Then hopefully you'll be able to see what we do, and maybe then you'll want to, you'll be interested in buying the refurb course and taking this one step further, because 9 times out of 10 people lose money when they invest in property because they don't know how much things cost or what defects to look out for. And if you haven't got that knowledge, then I'm sorry to say you're going to lose money, and we don't want you to do that. Over the years, we've lost money, but you don't have to, because like no other course out there, we teach you everything you need to know from day one. I promise you that. So what I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to share a video with you that we took recently when we went to view a property that we were looking to buy. So have a look at this property, and I'll just take you through some basic stages to show you generally what we tend to look out for. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot more, but this gives you a bit of an insight as to what we're going to offer you as part of the package or packages that we've got on offer. So have a little look at this, and then we'll have a little chat afterwards. Welcome to Learn All About Property. Now, you may have seen Lindsay speaking earlier about the, how to do your due diligence and get your strategies right whenever you're looking to invest in property. But one of the other things that most people struggle with, well, it's knowing, what to look out for when you buy a property. Do you know what type of defects to look for? Do you know how much things are going to cost to repair or refurbish? Well, the good news is, I'm going to let you in on a few little secrets as to what to look out for. Here's a property that we're thinking of buying. Generally, we are thinking of buying this property. So I'm going to take you around and just have a little quick look to see what type of things I would tend to look out for. And the type of things that we're going to teach you to look out for as well. Let's have a little look. Right, so if we walk around the house, it's a fairly newish house. It's not old, it's been built within the last 20 years. Generally everything looks good. The brickwork is newish, there's newish windows. So there's a lot of money to be saved there and not having to maybe render or buy new windows and so on. If we look around the side then, it looks as though the people who own this house were going to have some works done in the garden. We can see it's a gravel pathway, so to me, we need to slab this, we need to put something down to boost it up a little bit. Again, everything is is in place. It's dirty, needs cleaning. You'll be surprised how you can clean this stuff up. So a lot of it, what I'm seeing at the moment, is needs superficial cleaning. Nothing, there doesn't seem to be any cracks anywhere. The mortar and the brickwork, it looks good. I can't see any issues of, rising damp at the moment. Nice boiler flue there. We got some weep holes. Now those holes up there are weep holes, what we call weep holes in the cavity. So nothing to be worried about there. You may not know what weep holes are, but I'll explain that in our refurbishment course. But then we come onto the little extension. Now I can see they've had this recently built. It's not finished, okay. I won't go into too much detail right now, but there's no fascias on there, there's no soffits, there's no guttering. The brickwork looks pretty good. I've noticed there's a little bit of crack in here where the extension joins on to the previous or the existing property. Now, there are two ways to join on. You can either tie the brickwork in, or you can use special starter bars, which they've done. I assume they've done anyway. But there's a little bit of movement there, which might just be where it's dried out, so I'm not too worried about that. If you look carefully up there, Lindsay just comes, Lindsay's our camera lady a minute. If she comes around and she just zooms into the cracks just underneath the windowsill there, what we call ladder cracks, just beneath the first floor window. Now that to me indicates possibly a sign of movement. Now it could have occurred when they built this extension, which may have meant that the brickwork under that window dropped a little bit, which sometimes is acceptable, okay, as long as you repair it. But what we need to do obviously is go inside and make sure that whatever they've done inside is obviously compliant with building regs. The other type of crack is where you might just have a straight crack down the wall, something like this in this picture here. Now that could be down to maybe a crack in rendering. It could also be similar to a crack, movement crack, if they've had building works done, or even, you know, old cracks from an old type of property. But again, we go into that in more depth in our course. So if we come around the back of the house then, I can see, you know, the garden hasn't been done, so we're going to have to spend some money here. How much we spend on the garden is going to really depend on, you know, what we want to do with it. Are we going to slab it all? Are we going to turf it? Are we going to have some planting borders? Are we going to erect fencing? All of these things is what we teach on the course, so don't panic, okay? I'm only teaching you, you know, the things we tend to look out for. So if we look at the back of the house, again, you know, everything seems fine, but look, there's some more cracks up there, another ladder crack just above where the new extension roof joins. So to me, again, that is indicating there's been some movement going on inside the property when they built this extension. So we need to investigate that. So whenever you see a ladder crack, okay, or any type of crack for that matter, you need to be aware that it could be caused by something that could be costly to repair, okay? So cracks are the things to look out for. But everything is repairable, and that's what we teach on these courses. So, you know, I wouldn't be put off buying a property just because you see a little crack like that. The key is to find out what's causing it and then trying to calculate how much it's going to cost to repair it. So let's go inside and have a little look. Now, truth be known, we've already been inside this property, so I know what is going on. But when we come inside, look, the people who own this property, they were refurbishing it, and for whatever reason, they've decided to sell, okay? Now, they've obviously had this extension built, so what you just saw outside is this little rectangular area here. And as you can see, they've taken a wall down and they've put some steels up, okay, which is generally what you do when you're building an extension and knocking through. So why are the cracks occurred outside? Well, when they knock the walls through and put the steels up, there tends to be a bit of movement when the builders are doing this type of work. If you get a few little ladder cracks because of that, it's not a big issue. It just means you've got to fill them back in. However, okay, and this is again what we teach. There are good builders and there are bad builders, cowboy builders. The people who did this work were cowboy builders, and I say that with a passion because what I've now witnessed is absolutely diabolical, okay? Let me just show you. They put steels in, okay? The steel here and the steel here. And obviously when they've put those steels in, there's been a bit of movement that's caused the cracks outside. However, these steels are too short, so to bridge the gap, they put some bloody timber in between. So you've got steel that's supposed to join onto steel, and because it was too small, they put some timber in between to fill up the gap. I mean, that is horrendous. That is absolutely the worst workmanship, or I've seen on steelwork. So, you know, these builders should be shot, and I do know they've been investigated. And the other thing as well, look, when you look at the steel on this side, ideally steel should sit on a nice concrete brick or a pad stone. And you can see what they've done is they've just rested it on a piece of timber. This is a timber wall, and they've rested the steel on there 75 millimeters where it should be at least 100, 150 mil. Again, absolutely shocking. Now, you may not know this if you're new to property, but again, this is what we teach you. So these are obvious signs. If you don't know what to look for, you get an engineer in. So if you don't know what's causing a crack, you get an engineer in. But this workmanship is diabolical. And then again here, where the steel goes into the wall, you know, it's supposed to be a pad stone, and what they've done is just absolutely shocking. It really is. But it gets worse, because what we've also noticed is that outside with the crack in, okay, we wanted to make sure, or the owners who own this one wanted to make sure that the foundations are good. Now, you know, do you know what size foundation should be constructed for an extension? You may not know, but again, that's what we teach. But as it happens, they did some investigation works, and if you look down here, this concrete floor, new concrete floor, should be at least 100 millimeters thick. It should have insulation below it. It should have a damp-proof membrane. It's got none of that whatsoever. So again, a cowboy builder. He has just cut corners, charged as much money as he can, and he's left these poor people in a horrendous situation where all of this work has got to be done again. Now, even the foundations below the extension, they're too small. They should be at least 400, 450 millimeters deep. They're only about 100 mil. So what does this mean? It means we've got to underpin everything that these builders have currently built. We could knock the extension down and start again, but you know, we're not going to do that. If we buy this property, we're going to have to underpin. What is underpinning? Again, it's a process that we'll teach you on the course. Now, these defects I've shown you are a little bit extreme, but it just goes to show, unless you know what you're looking for when you try to invest in property, you're going to, or could end up losing a lot of money. And that's why these courses and what we teach you are so important. Is there anything else in this house? Well, let's have a little look in the lounge, shall we? So structurally, we know what's causing the cracks, okay? It's poor workmanship, poor steel work, and it's obviously poor foundations. But generally then we've got a property or a lounge like this, look, and it looks okay. There's no cracks, there's no artex in the ceilings. Why do I say artex? Well, some of you may or may not know that artex may have asbestos. So these are the things again that we look for. And this room is quite modern, newish. Okay, it just needs it needs a bit of love and tender care really to well, decoration. Skirtings are good, the architraves are good, the doors are okay. You know, if you really wanted to, all you'd have to do is maybe just decorate this house, apart from the structural stuff, and you could then maybe rent it or flip it. And again, you know, you need to know about these things and what to look out for. So far, so good. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you upstairs and we'll just have a little look at one or two other things as well. Okay, so here we are upstairs. It's a 3-bedroom house. It's got a little bathroom and an ensuite. So here in the bedroom, again, first impression is it just needs decorating at the moment. There's nothing that's standing out too obvious. Just a little bit oldie-woldy. Needs a fresh lick of paint. Now then, there is a crack up here, look. Now downstairs, you might remember I said there were some structural issues, yeah? They obviously need attention. Now you've got a little crack there above this doorway. Let's have a look if there's any more. You've got a little crack above this doorway as well. Now, would I be worried about these type of cracks? Well, from experience, no, I'm not. But for any newbies, I would say you need to investigate that, because generally you'll find cracks like that above doorways because, as you know, when people live in houses, they slam the doors and they get a little bit of movement. And more often than not, that's what causes these type of cracks. Now, if they're quite large, if they may be, you know, 1 millimeters, 3 millimeters wide, then yes, it could be something else going on there. But generally, these are hairline cracks, and they're just due to slamming, a little bit of settlement over the years, nothing that much to be worried about. And generally, a little bit of polyfiller, good polyfiller, fill them in, decorate them over, and you'll be fine. But as I say, if they are any wider than maybe 2-3 millimeters and they're going up into the ceiling or something like that, then it could be there's maybe a rotten joist or something like that, or a bit of damp coming in from the roof, or even maybe the lintel above the doorway is moved. Again, you know, you're not going to know that unless you investigate further. But generally, hairline cracks in the plaster, nothing to worry about. I've also noticed down here, we've got a little bit of a crack in the woodwork or movement. Now again, would I be worried about that? Generally, maybe not, but it is quite a big crack. So that could mean that maybe there's a little bit of movement occurred in the floor. What could cause that? Again, it could be age, you know, it could be weight in the bedroom with the beds, or people jumping up and down on the floors. No, I'm only joking. Or it could be maybe a bit of a damp issue. Now I say that because I know in here, there's a little ensuite. And as you can see, the ensuite, the shower, has been leaking. And obviously that has then caused the floor to swell. It could well mean that maybe the joist below has rotted a little bit. And that is what maybe has caused that crack in the skirting. So again, if there is a bathroom suite nearby, you know, a crack in the floor or the timber, it could be there's a leak somewhere. You may not even see it. It could be under the bath, leaking under the bath and then rotting the joists away. So again, generally little hairline cracks between different timbers, you know, between the architraves is acceptable. But anything bigger, you need to investigate, especially if it's near a bathroom suite. So again, a little tip there for you. We go into, you know, more into depth than that in our full refurbishment course. But these are the little tips that hopefully will give you an idea of, you know, how seriously we take things and you know, and what we look out for when we inspect properties. So it all comes with practice as well and experience. But let's have a little look around the rest. And then in here we got the bathroom. Just put this toilet seat down. Now then, it's old. And to be honest with you, it doesn't look too, okay, I don't like the colour scheme. The suite is old, so I would change all of this. But one thing that stands out for me is there's no mildew. Now most bathrooms have mildew, don't they? So the great news is there's an extractor fan in this bathroom, which is why probably there's no mildew or black on the walls and so on and so on. And obviously you've got, you know, you've got the silicone in around the sink basin and around the bath. It, you know, it needs redoing, I agree, but you know, generally this bathroom is in a good condition. What would I do with it? You know, if it's a buy-to-let, you could scrub this really clean and redecorate, and it'll be fine. For a flip, I'd probably modernize it a little bit. But again, you know, this bathroom is quite good condition in all fairness. So where you see lots of black and mildew, it could be condensation, it could be damp. Sometimes it's difficult to determine between the two, but again, we teach that in the course. So you know, you'll soon learn what to look out for and how to identify that. Okay, let's have a look around the rest of the place. Got a nice banister there. Okay, I would paint this. It's a good height, health and safety wise. It's a good height so that you don't fall over. Maybe it's a little bit loose, it could be tightened up. Let's have a look in the bedrooms. Again, it just needs its old new carpets. Now here's another little crack, look. See this one here. Again, my first reaction is it's quite superficial. It's a hairline crack, but do you notice it's in a common place, which is above the lintel. So you've got the lintel of the window here. It looks to me as though maybe it's been patched in the future. So again, if this was a bigger crack, I'd be concerned, because it could mean that there's something going on with the lintel. The lintel might be rotten. It might have deteriorated over the years. It might have cracked, or it could be that it's just moved over the years with the weight of the roof on it and so on. if you're worried or it's thicker, you should get an engineer to inspect that for you. So these are the type of things that you need to look out for. Other than that, in here, it's pretty good. The cupboard, another good thing in cupboards is sometimes you find a lot of mold in them, black mildew. And as you can see in this one, there's nothing. So again, that indicates to me the house is well insulated, it's warm, there's no cold spots that would cause damp or mildew. And it can be, as I say, difficult to distinguish between the two. But so far we haven't seen any big signs of damp in this property. If in doubt, you can get somebody to come along and do an inspection for you, and it doesn't cost that much, to be honest with you. But I do teach, you know, the other things about damp in the course, and I will share that with you so that obviously you can learn all the tricks of the trade. Then if we go into this room, again, just needs decoration, hardly any issues to be concerned about. There's no cracks above the window. There's a little one here again above the doorway. Remember what I said earlier? It's a hairline crack, generally caused by door slamming or a little bit of movement over the years, but other than that, it's not too bad. The electrics, I know we haven't mentioned much about that at the moment, but the sockets are an indication of how old really the electrics are. To me, they're not old electrics, but they're not new either. So again, this property is probably going to need a partial rewire or to be checked. And again, you'll learn that in the course. So as you can see, generally, when you come into a property, these are the simple things that we tend to look out for. Okay, so we're back downstairs, and to finish off, I'm just going to discuss about central heating and electrics. So here we've got a combi boiler. Now, what is a combi boiler? Well, it's a combination boiler. So basically, you don't have any water tanks in the house, you don't have any header tanks in the attic, you just have a boiler like this. Everything is contained inside. Very, very economical to run. So when you want hot water, you open the tap, this boiler fires up, and then you've got your hot water coming through the tap. So you don't have to use a timer to heat the whole tank up. It's instant, okay? Now this boiler is not brand new. Normally, if a boiler's 8, 9, 10 years old in a property that we're looking to buy, we will change the boiler, because the average life expectancy of a boiler is 10 to 12 years. So this is probably, I think, 8 years, maybe 9 years, not 100% certain, but I would write the name down and maybe the gas council number and just check. But ideally, I would change this boiler for a new one. They're relatively easy to change. It doesn't cost a huge amount of money, and you can pick new boilers up, anything from a good boiler, anything from say £650 upwards. It depends how big a boiler you want to go for, depending on the size of the house. So having a combi boiler in a property is a good sign as well. It generally means that the central heating system might not be too old as well. So again, that might be a good thing and enable you to save money. So we're talking about the central heating system. If we go back into the living room, one thing to check as well is the radiators. So for example, over here, we've got the lounge radiator. Now this radiator is quite new, okay? You can get some much nicer radiators, but it's not an old radiator. And what I tend to look out for on radiators like this, are there any rust bits on it? Sometimes as time goes on, the ends to rust, or maybe the valves will start to leak. So you need to check the valves, see if there's any water, you know, any drips of water around them, any rust marks underneath the radiators. Because if they are starting to rust, it might be that it's just surface rust, but sometimes in older systems, the radiators rust from the inside out. And once they start to do that, it means you've got to have to put new radiators in. So always check every radiator, every valve, check if there's any signs of rust to see if, you know, what's going on. Because if there are, it means you're going to have to change the radiators as well. So that's generally, briefly, the central heating system. There's a lot more to it, but I'm not going to go into that just now. Obviously, we cover that in the course. Now, I mentioned upstairs about the electrics, and for me, you know, the sign of these white sockets indicate that the electrics are newish, you know, probably within, you know, they've been installed within the last 20 years. And then another good thing to check is the fuse board. Now, this fuse board is newish. It's you know, it's been updated. It's got what we call MCD circuit breakers. So again, it's fairly new, but you would need to get an electrician to check it out. So this property, in my eyes, needs a partial refurb. Okay, maybe not a full refurb, but it needs upgrading. So that's very important that you get it checked out. Today, this type of fuse board is made out of plastic. A tip now is plastic is no longer acceptable. It has to be metal or fire rated. So if there's a fire, it doesn't melt straight away. So new fuse boards, particularly if you're going to do any upgrade, now you'll have to change the fuse board, okay, for a metal one. So again, just bear that in mind. So if you get a builder in who says the fuse board is fine and you do an upgrade on electric, it's not. You need a metal fuse board, okay, particularly if you're going to rent the property out. So there you have it. Hopefully lots of little tips there for you. And as I say, hope to see you on our property refurbishment course soon, where you're going to learn stacks of stuff. It's actually going to teach you everything you're going to need to know, I promise you. And it is good fun. Lots of videos, lots of tips and advice. So I'll see you there. So there you have it. What do you think? It might seem a little bit overwhelming, but that's just a minute bit of what we're going to teach you. There's a lot more to learn, you know, from damp issues, roofing issues, flooring issues, wall issues, electrical issues, central heating issues, and of course you've got property development. There's a huge amount to learn, but it's all exciting stuff. And as you saw on that particular video, we actually use those type of videos, real videos that we've actually taken whilst we've been viewing properties and whilst we've been refurbishing properties. So not only do we teach you things like in the classroom and on slides, we actually take you to sites so that you can see on film exactly what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. Now, as I said earlier, you know, there is a lot to learn. But with us being there to help you, guide you, hold your hand to some respect, there's no reason why you'll lose money if you listen to exactly what we teach you. Instead, you'll make money. And that is what Learn All About Property is about. It's helping you to make money rather than lose money, okay? We've learned the hard way, but you don't have to. And that's what I'm really, really proud and delighted to be able to share with you, as my colleagues, of course. Now, whilst they're still in the studio filming, I'm still privileged to be out here in the sunshine and sharing some more advice with you. So here's another little tip, and it's only a little tip just to show you exactly the type of things that we have to offer. Have a look at this. Now, you might be wondering, why am I holding a plank of wood? Well, as you can see, this property has been plastered. It's an old property, okay? But how good is a plastering, or how good are the walls, is very often a question as to what people ask, and how good should the finish be. But when you look at these walls, they look fine, okay? And generally, you know, there's nothing wrong with them. But, okay, if you're going to do a high-end flip, right, and you want the workmanship to be really first class, okay, then things to check with the plastering are this, okay? Just run your hand over the plastering. Does it feel smooth? More often than not, it will. Does it feel bumpy, okay? If it does feel bumpy, then maybe then the plastering is not as good as what it could be. But another good tip is this. Look at that. Can you see, whoops, hold on, no, turn it on the other way, that's a bit better. Can you see the gap between the top of the plank and the bottom of the plank, and the gap in the middle, okay? Now this is indicating one or two things, okay? It either means that the existing wall was very wonky and the plasterers have put or plastered just over it, okay? Which very often is the case. Or if this has been dot and dabbed, in other words, plasterboard stuck to the wall, okay? It hasn't been done as good as what it could have been, because when they've stuck the plasterboards on, they've pushed the plasterboards against the wall, the adhesive has gripped the wall, but it's all uneven. The proper way to do it when you dot and dab a wall is to put the plasterboard on, have a big straight edge like this, and you bang it on with a straight edge so that the whole plasterboard is nice and level. And as you can see, in this instance, that hasn't happened. Now, okay, some people might say, well, you can't really see that, but you will if you come to put a TV on the wall, or maybe a cabinet against the wall, other furniture, shelves. So one thing to look out for is things like that, okay? So carry a plank of wood around with you when you go and check the workmanship in your properties, okay? And that's something you can look out for. So, would you be happy with it or not? Depends on the strategy you're using, how much you're paying for the refurb, and whether you've specified to the plasterers, or the plasterboarders, whether you want vertical straight walls throughout the house or not, okay? If you haven't specified it, then there may be a case of an argument between you and the builders to who pays to put it right. So there you have it, there's another little tip, and there's hundreds of them. Trust me when I say that. There is literally hundreds of little tips that we share with people every single week on our courses and within our Facebook groups and training platforms. Now, I'm going to share with you another little video. Now, what's one of the biggest things that people find when they go and look at old properties? Well, you've guessed it, it's damp. Okay, so this is a property that we've just purchased. Okay, it's an empty block of flats that we bought at a very good price, below market. Remember, strategy, locations, all important. We bought it below market, and we're going to convert into 3 luxury flats. But whilst we were inspecting it, there's lots of damp issues. Okay, nothing that I'm too worried about, because there's a solution for everything, but it's knowing what that solution is and how much it costs. That's the important factor. And if you know that when you go into a property, you're not as deterred when you see things like damp issues or even some structural cracks, because you know there's a solution for them, and you also know what maybe the average cost is to rectify them. A lot of people, they go in older properties and they're scared to death with what they've seen. For me, the older, the more sort of rugged and run down it is, the better, because I know I can take it back to a blank canvas and start again. I can refurbish it to make it look like new. But at the same time, I need to make sure that it's affordable and that the end value of that property once it's refurbished is going to make me money. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it? So, whilst they're still in the studio, have a look at this little video and see what you think. Now, I'm going to give you some tips, should I say, about damp, okay? Lots and lots of damp in houses can be caused by loads of different things, and to be honest with you, it can be quite confusing. Now, if we have a look up here, okay, we're on the top floor flat at the moment. We've got a lovely feature fireplace, chimney breast going up here, and of course, we're on the top flat. Got a lot of damp coming in here. Now, this is quite obvious, okay, that the damp ingress is being caused by chimney issues. But does that mean it's going to cost a lot of money to repair? Not necessarily, because very often old chimneys, they're open on the top, so rain can come in, and obviously that damp then can come down the chimney breast, for example. Or it could be that the pointing has failed on the chimney, so again you might have to have it repointed. Or it could be that the lead flashing has just simply come away, because over time lead will deteriorate, or even seagulls will peck at it, birds will peck at it, and it comes away and it lets damp in like this. Another option would be to take the chimney down altogether. However, I have known instances whereby the chimney's been actually fine, but it's the roof, the way the roof tiles are butt up to the chimney and the lead flashing comes over those tiles, that is causing damp such as this. So don't be put off or dismayed when you see damp like this, because it's not the end of the world, okay? There's always a solution, but it can be difficult to sometimes identify where it's coming from. Now, new chimneys on houses, they've actually got a lead flashing built in the chimney. So when the chimney's built, they've got a big, huge lead flashing. So if water does come down the chimney, it can't come into the house. But the older chimneys don't have that. So there could be various reasons why damp is coming in. So that is quite typical and fairly obvious that it's a chimney problem. But then you've got something like this. We've got an outside wall, and as you can see, lots of damp coming in here. Where could this be coming in from? Well, again, the first thing people would say is coming in through the wall, and that is the most obvious. So you'd look on the outside and you'd have a check to see if maybe the pointing's failed or there's a crack maybe in the outside wall. Believe it or not, it could even be coming in from the windowsill. So a lot of rain lands on the windowsill outside. Maybe the pointing has failed, and what happens? The water will trickle in. It might be coming in this way because the wind is blowing this way. So, you know, when it rains, it might be pushing the rain through the crack in the wall or the windowsill, and it's coming in through here. Another reason why damp could be coming in might not be through the window or the wall, it could be coming in through the roof. So if, for example, the roof tiles have come away or the soffit is broken outside, rain could be blowing in under the roof tiles onto the wall up here and then trickling down and coming out at this point. So again, you know, it can be confusing as to where the damp is coming from. So don't just automatically assume it's the wall or it might be the roof. You have to really try and trace it back and identify, you know, what the defect is from the outside first. So if you see a crack in the wall, you might think, yeah, it's that. Might not be. Check the roof as well. So in other words, learn what all of the tips are that could be causing damp like this: the roof, the walls, the windowsill, the window, and check them all. Just don't, you know, if you find one fault, doesn't mean to say that there aren't others. Well, what do you think? Yeah, just goes to show, you know, if you've got somebody like us teaching you all the tricks of the trades, what to look out for, there's no reason why you can lose money when you invest in property. And when you package everything together that we're offering, okay, I promise you, you'll end up making lots of money as long as you follow exactly what we teach. Now, I'm being called back in the studio because I've got more training modules within this property refurbishment course to put together for you to watch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you now, pass you back to my colleagues, and obviously they're going to train you a little bit more about other things. And then later on, you'll see us all again together and we can talk soon. But if there is anything that I can help you with, or any of us can help you with, then by all means get in touch. But for now, I'm going to shoot back in before I get a telling off, and I see you on the next modules, training modules, okay? See you soon. Take care.